Mr. Peter Handermark, and then the NOE, Brian Nair, the COO, Mamuteti, and the acting CFO, Ndili Posa. This is the team that is appearing before the committee today, and we will allow the CEO then to lead the presentation on behalf of Legal Aid South Africa. We want to thank the committee for allowing us the space and opportunity to make this presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair, and welcome, CEO and your team. We have read your presentation as the committee members. As such, we will allow you 50 minutes to make your presentation, which is just 10 minutes below an hour, and then we can interact with your presentation. You can proceed, CEO.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Just to add that there's also one board member with us who is Dr. Tong, and that's the board member that joined us in April 2021, just after the end of the period that we are reporting on. Would really like to also in our midst, we also have with us one of the new executives, which is the legal executive, land rights management, in line with the new mandate that's been assigned to us as from the January 2022. And his name is Mr. Tabiso Mbenze.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And the CLE will help share the presentation. But just as a way of introduction, reflecting on 2021 is somewhat difficult as COVID-19 pandemic and the national state of disaster limited movement, and as a result, impacting on our ability to serve the public and provide access to justice. And on behalf of Legal Aid SA citizens, I would like to take this opportunity to just pay tribute to the 14 departed colleagues who succumbed to COVID-19 related complications. We take a moment to applaud them for the contribution they've made to Legal Aid SA and the lives that they've impacted whilst in our service.
CEO, can you observe a moment of silence for the departed members of the South African Legal Aid Board?
Thank you.
May their soul rest in peace. Thank you very much. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. In line with the committee's invitation, our presentation will cover the annual report for the 2020-21 financial year, and also cover the performance for this current financial year, that is our performance against predetermined objectives or approved business plan, and also highlight on our budgetary expenditure for the year to date. And also we will share with the committee, as per the committee's request, the challenges we envisage in the execution of our approved business plan for the remainder of the year. In terms of our overall performance, I just want to check CLE if you're able to share the presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. But I will proceed as the committee members have looked at our presentation. In terms of the overall performance, we have, despite the trying circumstances pertaining to COVID-19, We remained focused on the execution of our mandate, our vision and our mission. And in the first year of this current strategic plan 2020-25, we have managed to deliver on over 90% of our approved business plan. And our prudent management on public funds or resources entrusted to us in the achievement of our mandate has earned us a 20th unqualified audit opinion. Though Legal Aid SA saw a baseline budget reduction of about 127 for the year under review, we have managed to introduce mitigating measures that ensured effective cost management. And for that, we managed to attain 92.2%, to spend 92.2% of our 2.1 allocation. And in terms of our HR management, our approved structure comprised 2,799 positions, but because of the budgetary constraints for the MTEF, we managed to only recruit 86.7% of our 95% target. So instead of 2,799 employees, we only managed to employ 2,426 as of the 31 March 2021. And our staff turnover is 5.34%, which is more than 5% below the industry norm of 10%. While the state of disaster placed many hurdles in the execution of our mandate, Legal Aid SA embraced technology and innovation, and our internal IT system was 99.9 available for the period under review. The COVID-19 circumstances required us to make effective use of technology to ensure continuity in service delivery. And in terms of our remote IT access capability, that was increased from 910 at the beginning of the financial year, which was April 2019, to 1,742 as at the end of the financial year. And we are pleased to say that picture has improved tremendously, as now we're able to accord remote access capability to more than 2,000 of our 2,400 employees. And also with regard to access to Microsoft Teams, that enable us to use video links and online conferencing, and for us to hold meetings like we're doing currently. And also in our prior interactions with the portfolio committee, at the end of the financial year 2021, we had accorded 1,000 users Microsoft Teams licenses, but I'm happy now to report that our IT department has enabled all legal aid citizens have been accorded access to Microsoft Teams as of end of Q2 for this financial year. Thank you. In terms of our legal delivery system, utilizing our mixed model service delivery system, we have provided 372,830 persons, indigent, vulnerable people were provided with legal representation and legal advice. Of that 372,297, 206 were new legal matters. And of those new legal matters, 91% of them were new criminal matters and 9% of them were civil matters. We accorded general advice on legal advice to 75,624 persons and finalized 331,893 matters. But when comparing these numbers for 2021 to whom legal services have been provided for the year under review, for instance, on the new matters, on settled matters, and on legal advice, one is able to notice that the new criminal matters decreased by 23% when compared to the prior year, and this hard-hit area was a civil component, which decreased by 46%, and also the general advice decreased by 72%, and our finalized matters decreased by 11%. And the decrease in when you do a year-on-year comparison clearly indicate that the COVID-19 and the resultant lockdown measures impacted on our service delivery. In terms of governance, the Legal Aid SA governance framework continued to mature during the year under review. And we managed to attain the unqualified audit, as I alluded earlier on, and to promote an ethical culture. All our employees are encouraged, or it is compulsory for them to declare outside interest or work that they do outside Legal Aid SA, and they're required to disclose biannually on their external interest. And 99% of the staff members did disclose their interest for the year under review. And we also have an independent ethics, fraud, and hotline for independent reporting of any unethical conduct. And for the year under review, we received 36 matters. Our internal audit department completed 95% of the risk-based and annual audit coverage plan. They managed to complete 130 of the 124, and we complied with all the requirements or statutory reports that are due to the executive authority, and similarly to the portfolio committee as and when required. Our human resources in terms of our human resources management, we are grateful to have the team that we have. It's the dedication of our legal aid citizens that contributed immensely for the organization's resilience during the pandemic. We remain the employer of choice for graduates and legal practitioners that are very passionate about justice. And we are happy to say that in the independent omnibus survey that was conducted by an external party for everyone in the organization, it confirmed a positive climate or organizational culture, and it indicated that 83% of our staff intend remaining in the employment of Legal Aid SA for the next 2 years. And we were named by Top Employer SA and an industry leader in the public sector for the 6th successive year, and in recognition to our human resource best practice or human resource policies. And the finance, you may skip the next and go to the finance one. Thank you. In terms of our irregular expenditure, we incurred 1.7 million irregular expenditure, and that was 33% lower than what we incurred the previous year. The reduction can be attributed mainly to the system and process enhancements that we deployed to tackle the root causes of the irregular expenditure, and that related to sheriff's office accommodation and contract management. The acquisition of accommodation and management of our accommodation, that is our footprint across the country, remains a challenge. And this attributes to about 80% of the irregular expenditure that was incurred. And it is heartwarming to say that even during the pandemic, we're able to pay our creditors. 97.7% of our creditors were paid within 30 days. Thank you. Thank you. That then concludes the highlights for the year that we're reporting for, that is 2021 annual performance. And then in terms of our performance for this current financial year, 2021 to 2022, we have achieved 69% for both Q1 and Q2. The 69% is evidenced by the legend blue and also the legend green, because in terms of our approved corporate dashboard heat map, we are to attain more than 90% on each of the 63 KPIs. So for the mid-year performance, we have attained 69%. And areas that we did not do well are particularly linked to areas that were impacted by COVID-19. We have in the next slides alluded to each indicator, what the variance was, and also the reason for the variance. The areas that we did not do well pertains to the delivery of legal services, our regional court coverage, delivery of civil aid, legal aid service, finalization of civil matters, delivery of quality legal general advice, pending matters, our community outreach program, legal staff recruitment, and staffing levels that are informed by our conservative approach that is informed by the budget cuts. And also areas that we're not doing well relates to compliance to PFMA, as evidence that we have to date for 6 months into this financial year incurred irregular expenditure of about 746. So we're partly not complying with the PFMA. And with regard to employment equity, we are not reaching the predetermined targets as contained in our employment equity plan. And that relates to Africans at senior management and Blacks at senior management, and also women at senior management. Although we've witnessed an improvement from the performance that we reported in prior year, we still have a lot to do in the remaining 6 months to be able to reach the target as contained in our employment equity strategy plan for 2020-2025. We're also not attaining our disability target of 2%. We're currently at 1.5%. And in terms of the budget expenditure, of the 2.1 billion that we've been accorded, we have managed to spend 1.1 billion up to mid-year for this financial year. And our budget expenditure is below the 50% for the mid-year mark, informed by our conservative stance with regard to ensuring that we align ourselves with the cost of employment budgetary cuts that were imposed through the MTEF budget cuts. Thank you. And our challenges going forward relates to the MTEF baseline reductions and also the land rights management facility funding that we taking over from the 1st of January 2022. With regard to the baseline budget reductions for the year under review, we are to cut, our baseline budget was cut by 185 million. 100 million was for cost of employment, and we were to cut 81,335 for goods and services. For the upcoming year 2022-2023, for cost of employment is 121 million, and for goods and services, we are not to cut anything. But when you consider the cost of employment cut of 121 million and taking into account this year's 100 million, that would have an adverse impact on the recruitment, more so that more than 70% or more than 80% of our expend is on cost of employment. Thank you. Thank you. The land one. In early March 21, the Ministers of Justice and Correctional Services, our executive authority, and Ministers of Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development announced that the Land Rights Management Facility, currently managed by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, will be transferred to Legal Aid SA. I am pleased to announce that the said transfer is imminent. The facility will be transferred to Legal Aid SA on the 1st of January 22, pending the finalization of the MOU and the transfer of the budget. Legal Aid SA task team, led by the Legal Executive, Land Rights Management, Thabiso Mbenze, that I introduced at the beginning of the meeting, is currently co-managing the facility, LRMF, under the auspices of our Executive Authority, Department of Justice and Constitutional Developments. Plans are underway to finalize the MOU and the requisite financial resources. And I would like to thank our Executive Authority, DOJ and DALRRD DGs, or accounting officers, and their teams for their cooperation in coordinating this transfer. And in terms of the funding, we are looking at negotiating with the Department of Agriculture, National Treasury, and also the DOJ to have the funding requirements to set up and also to operate the Legal Aid Land Rights Management Unit. All indications are we'll get the required funding before the end of the year, so that there may be a smooth handover in January 2022. Thank you. In conclusion, areas that may impact on our execution of our strategy relates to the budget cuts for cost of employment and also for goods and services that are outlined for the MTEF period, and the new land mandate, the funding as outlined here. It is important that because of the budget, our baseline budget cut will not be able to fund any activities for the land management units within legal aid if no requisite funding is made available. And office accommodations remains a challenge. And we are looking at acquiring some of the properties to alleviate the procurement related challenges. Our board has engaged our executive authority And we are optimistic that once the executive authority approves the board's plan, we will be able to alleviate some of the problems that are related to office accommodation procurement. Thank you very much, Chair. That then concludes our presentation to the committee.
Thank you very much, CEO. Members, that is a presentation from the South African Legal Aid Board. Any comments or questions? I don't see any hands or Honorable Nieuwoudt, your hands. Honorable Nieuwoudt, your hands.
Yes, Chair, apologies. Just sorting out interpreters, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to Legal Aid SA for the presentation. I know that seeing it's been a COVID year and the budget cuts, it's been rather difficult, but thank you for providing services throughout this difficult period. Just a few questions. I would like to know, I know you said that there were a few staff members who passed during the year. I'd also like to send my condolences to their friends and family. I would like to know the impact of COVID on Legal Aid SA as an organization, the cost to the organization because of the COVID pandemic. And secondly, you spoke about online or virtual meetings. So I would like to know that, does that include being able to have online meetings with the inmates? Is it possible? So the IT services that you can have video conferencing, can you use that to communicate with the inmates and correctional services? I would like to congratulate you on the Oh, 99% disclosure. The staff is of 99% disclosure. Congratulations. I'm curious about the 1% who haven't disclosed. What is the reason for that? I'm sure the organization would want to see 100% disclosure in that regard. And in relation to disability, 1.5%, you didn't give any reasons why Legal Aid SA can't achieve the 2% target. Could you elaborate on that a bit more, please? And then in terms of gender-based violence, you know, the rates increased during the lockdowns. So I would like to find out, has Legal Aid SA been able to assist with gender-based violence cases during the different lockdowns? And then your report shows irregular expenditure because of not being tax compliant of some of your service providers. So I would like to know then, what will Legal Aid SA do about that? Are there any follow-ups that you'd be doing in that regard? And lastly, could you perhaps in a written response give us the list of where the legal aid offices are throughout South Africa, so we can just make note of that? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Glenis Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'd like to ask my questions last, please. I've just got an issue with a little emergency here that I need to take care of.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, I'll not switch on my camera. Load shedding has just arrived here at me and I'm now on my phone. Chair, yeah, thank you to Legal Aid South Africa for the presentation. Well done on yet another clean audit. But Chair, while there is the clean audit, we've noted that the Auditor General has made some comments around specifically contract management, which seems to be a problem that is now plaguing Legal Aid South Africa from one year to the next. The Honourable Neo Drachen has already referred to the irregular expenditure incurred. So I would want to ask what the plan is to improve that specific system. And then also, of course, the fact that in terms of payments within 30 days, that has seemingly also regressed somewhat, with specifically Judicare payments not being made within the prescribed period. So if Legal Aid South Africa could inform the committee as to what systems will be put in place to improve that situation. And then, Chair, yes, of course, the difficulty around really assessing the performance of Legal Aid South Africa is that we all know that to a large extent during the lockdown periods or the harsher lockdown periods, of course, when courts had limited functionality, we know courts never really closed down, but we all also know that not all courts were at all stages operational. Many cases were just postponed in order to limit the risks around the COVID pandemic. And so now we sit with a backlog roll that has increased exponentially. So I would like to ask from Legal Aid South Africa what measures they, from their side, have put in place to assist the criminal justice system to expedite matters in order to try and roll back some of the increases in the criminal backlog roll. And in that regard, specifically, Chair, we were informed by the Deputy Minister when he briefed the committee that unfortunately the ministerial, I want to say steering committee or management committee around a backlog roll initiative seemingly got stuck because there was a view that the involvement of the executive would constitute a breach of the separation of powers. So the Deputy Ministers therefore informed us that the initiative of the executive came to nothing really, or was stopped. So I would like to know from Legal Aid South Africa, from their side now, whether they are involved in, let's say, an initiative that excludes the executive now, apart from the efficiency enhancement committees, whether there is a process still ongoing to deal with the backlog roll and to try and diminish it. And if not, whether they do feel that such a process could still contribute to an improvement of that situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Juan. Honorable Jala.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and also to the legal aid team. And Chairperson, I have only few things to raise. Much as we really applaud the good work done by the legal aid in terms of their audit report, the clean audit, that they're still keeping even now, but there are issues Chairperson, that the legal aid has to focus on, which are of importance, which have been raised by the audit committee. Particularly, the audit committee is not happy about the inadequate contract management, their daily and monthly controls, monitoring of compliance, and IT system controls. Those are very important issues, Chairperson, that legal aid, the audit committee has just commented on, and in fact, not happy about, raised concerns on. I want them to comment on this matter, Chairperson. On the issue of the backlog, I think Honorable Horn has just covered me, but I also want to raise, yes, we applaud them for being, for them having received a top employer South Africa accreditation for that period of 12 years. But the only issue, Chairperson, that worries me is the issue of staff that is leaving legal aid. What are they saying about that? Why is the staff leaving? People leaving legal aid. What is it that we need to know about what is happening inside? That is not shown by the audit, the clean audit. Because Chairperson, I've on this issue of clean audit, we really applaud them indeed. I still repeat that. But you know, in some corners, in some places, the community is not happy about our institution getting the clean audit, only to find that the service delivery on the ground is not felt. So I think these are the issues that we need to look at them and make sure that even if we get these, the clean audit, we're able to work with numbers, make sure that we satisfy the issue of audit, but we must also make sure that indeed even the service delivery, it equals that report. Lastly, Chairperson, is on the issue, I've just raised it with the SIU unit, the issue of female. With this one, it is even worse, Chairperson. They are reporting that they are having challenges in meeting their targets, particularly for African females at the top, senior and middle management. Exactly what is the problem? Because they are saying they will address that issue between 2020 to 2025. They are not even specific. Do they have vacancies where they can try to address this issue? Because Chairperson, this issue of women having to get space and being recognized, it's very important. It's not a joke. We don't want to see it only in numbers. We want to see it, we want to feel it, that indeed women are being accommodated in these institutions. And women are getting space. I'm worried, very, very much worried. We have to sort that issue, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bernice Breitenbach.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My neighbor's cat came over the wall into my house, and I have 3 big dogs, so there was a small problem. My question is, it's taking quite a long time to transfer the legal aid or the legal representation function and the budget that goes along with that from the Department of Agriculture to Legal Aid South Africa. Why is this, and what progress is being made? Then there's 1.7 million irregular expenditure that was incurred as a result of transactions with non-compliant service providers. Is there a mitigation plan to deal with this? And then the ICT system of legal aid. I'd like to know a little bit more about the security thereof, especially in bearing in mind the ransomware attack on the Department of Justice. And also, did the attack on the Department of Justice have any effect on the capabilities of Legal Aid South Africa? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much. A few questions on my side to the legal aid. I think Honorable Jelle talked about staff resignations. I think the issue is whether you have conducted any exit interviews and what are they showing, because you have resignation standing at 29.8%, which is a big number. And then you have also an under expenditure of 154.5 million rands, which is up from 119 million during the previous financial year. What are the causes for that? And then you requested a rollover of 39.7 million rands. Has the National Treasury acceded to your request? And then you also have 53 million from your savings from operations. To what an extent will that assist in the next financial year to alleviate your financial challenges? Now, there is an issue that Honorable Jelle raised, and it's becoming a concern because even the SIU, when they came before us, they raised this issue of women and people with disability. Now, my difficulty, especially when it regards to the issue of women, is that for the past 10 to 15 years, if you go to our universities, there are more women than men, and there are more women graduating than men. Where do they end up? Because if all our institutions are going to have difficulty in recruiting women, so those who graduate, where do they end up? Well, I think that is one issue that I think is beginning to worry us, because if our institutions, all of them, they come and they raise an issue that they can't recruit these women, and these women are being produced every year by universities, then where are they? Where are they? So I think if we can, then I think the last one, have you considered online applications as it is done in South Australia, where people are able to apply for legal aid? Have you considered that? If no, why? And then if yes, what would be the relevant details? And then my last one, it relates to the issue of vaccinations, whether you have asked the Department of Health to assist you, since you are providing frontline services, and your rate of your people, especially legal, your lawyers that have contracted COVID is quite high, whether you have considered that, and if yes, to what an extent are you experiencing any form of resistance, people not wanting to vaccinate? Do you have such? And how are you, if there is, if you're experiencing such, how are you going to deal with that? Thank you very much, Deputy Chair and CEO.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, honorable members, for the questions. I will tackle the general ones, and the executive team will help me deal with the rest. Just overall on the COVID-19 operations, we have adapted our operations into a 2 teams approach, largely so that we can comply with the COVID-19 protocols of social distancing, and also to protect cross-infection amongst the staff. And that has worked well for the better part of the pandemic, and we're still on the 2 teams approach. And with relation to cost, because of the 2 teams approach, our other operational expenditure items are lower, and the biggest cost for us during COVID has been the data costs and the cell phone allowance to enable remote working. And this has helped us to ensure that there's continuity of service, that our practitioners, our court practitioners are able to liaise with their line managers, utilizing the data and the remote access, so that there is continuity of service and there is monitoring of the quality of service that we offer. And with regard to vaccination, we have witnessed a satisfactory take on, considering that our percentage year to date is 48.6%. We are concerned about the younger population of our team, the below 35s, where there seems to be some vaccination hesitancy, but we are working around the clock, inviting various experts through our wellness program so that they can attend to their pressing questions if they have. And since our wellness team from HR have started with this sessions, we have witnessed that there is a positive 10, that most staff are going for vaccination. We've moved from the 30s, and I'm confident that by the end of the year, we would be at 55%. So there's a lot of good work that management team and the HR is doing in that regard. And with regard to the audit, the AG's concerns, the concerns have been shared with us through the management letter. And I'm happy to say of the concerns that were raised with us, almost 70% of them we reported to the board now in November have been taken care of, and the acting CFO will deliberate more on them. With regard to contract management, that's keeping us awake at night, and numerous strategies have been employed, including system enhancements, where we have an automated variation system, or an automated system that's intended to help managers to tackle this problem. And also we have arranged training with National Treasury through our acting CFO and the finance team, so that all our local office managers and admin managers are then put through the training again, just to deepen the understanding on the compliance risk if we are not compliant. Because the AG in our engagement as well did raise the fact that that contract management is a thorny issue, and we are prioritizing it. And even in our report to the accounting authority, we afford them detailed reports as to where it is prevalent and how we're dealing with it, and also how we're dealing with consequence management to that effect. And with regard to, I have touched on the contract management, with regard to payment of duty care, Although our overall payment within 30 days for our debtors is above 90%, the one for Judicare is at 84%. For the year under review that we're reporting it, but for the current year, we are sitting over 90%. And the reason why we were below 90%, it was largely because of the instability of our new system, ELA, that has been stabilized, and we are then moving to phase 2, which will then attend to online applications that the chair alluded to. Our first phase was plagued by problems, but now it's stabilized. Hence, we are now paying even the Judicare practitioners, paying more than 90% within 30 days. So that is under our sharp focus. And with regard to the employment equity targets, we have prioritized it, because if we look at where we were in the previous financial year, 1920, and where we are, we have moved. For instance, women at senior management, the target is 45%, and we are currently at 42%. And we have made appointments that are effective from December and January that will change the picture. And I must assure the committee that our accounting authority, the board, as well shares the same agency that the portfolio committee is sharing with us. And we are doing a lot in that space in empowering our women leaders to make sure that when the positions are available, they can compete with their peers whenever the positions are available. But another component is with a reduction of the budget. For instance, in this current year, there was a reduction of 100 million for cost of employment. That impact on the number of positions that we can fill, and invariably then touch on our capability to attend to the employment equity targets. For instance, for this financial year only, I think the NOE will touch on it. We are not recruiting more than 100 of our approved establishment or positions within our approved establishment. And with regard to staff leaving legal aid, our turnover is around 5%. And to be precise, 5.3, 5.4, we've never been above 5.5, and the industry norm is 10%. But for the committee's assurance, we do conduct exit interviews for those employees that leave the organization or that resign. And in their exit interviews, most of the time we do not, no issues are raised in the exit interviews that we receive. I will then accord first the NOE to address the issue of the court backlog, and also the COO to shed light on the IT initiatives that we are doing to make sure that our IT environment is stable and it's responsive to the environment. And with regard to the IT and our cyber resilience, the unfortunate incident that befell our executive authority, the DOJ, did not affect us since we have an independent IT outfit. But we have a cybersecurity strategy that the board is monitoring very closely. And the board has also enlisted the support of additional members that are IT experts, so that they can increase the IT oversight from the board side. Thank you. I will then accord the NOE and then the COO and then the acting CFO. And also before I accord them to attend to the other problems, the question of the land transfer, Mayor Bredenbach, it's very advanced. And we are grateful for the cooperation that we got from DOJ and also agriculture, because we have a tripartite task team from our side, led by our legal executive, that is coordinating that. And also in that task team, we have our acting CFO, our CLE is also part of that. They are just at the brink. All system is on track for us to have the MOU and a commitment for the funding for the new mandate. And internally, the legal executive will shed light on the progress that we have made to date to prepare for January 2022. So in that order, the NOE, COO, acting CFO, and then the land executive. Thank you, Chair.
CEO, perhaps before they speak, and thanks very much for the clarity of given this far. Are we on? Chair, with your... Okay,
you are on, Deputy Chair.
Okay, thanks. With your permission, I wanted just to ask that if you allow me to be excused and my board EXCO members remain with the executives to take the committee through. I have an emergency that I cannot avoid, and I just thought I should not disappear from the screen without your permission, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Permission granted.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matumel Seilan would then be able to take you through with the execs and the other board EXCO members that are there. And I wish the committee further better deliberations on the matters raised. I have noted all of them, and I will definitely appraise the board chair about those matters once he is well enough to do his job. And thereafter, I'm sure even in the board next week, we will be able to check with the issues as management would present them to the board in order for the board to see how best we resolve all the issues that members of the PC have raised.
Yes, we also wish the chair a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Brian Nair. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
I'm the NOE, National Operations Executive, and I've been asked by the CEO to pick up on a few issues raised by the committee. May I firstly address maybe one or two issues that CEO has covered?
Mr. Nair, can we see your face?
Regrettably, Chair, my video camera doesn't work for some reason for the last few days. Regrettably. Thank you. Just picking up this, the CEO did mention about Judicare, just to give the committee a further assurance. For the first 2 quarters of this year, the payment rate was 99.16%. The slide under challenges. It's one of the targets we didn't meet because it was 100% as a target, but I think the performance at 99.16 is getting very close to the target. And secondly, the recruitment level that the CEO mentioned, I need to inform the committee that with the budget cuts in the last financial year, we had to dramatically slow down on recruitment in order to identify posts that we could abolish in order to accommodate the cut. And I could also for the coming year, we have a further cut of 25 million, and the additional 47 million as a result of the cost of living increase means that we have to be able to fund the deficit in our salary budget by both those amounts, 25 plus 47. And therefore, the recruitment has to be carefully managed so that we don't recruit posts and then find that we have to retrench warm bodies. So one of the methods we have utilized thus far is to identify posts that we can actually do without. Alternatively, to fill certain posts on a temporary basis whilst we determine the overall cut and whether we are able to absorb it. And that has obviously impacted on our recruitment rate. Chairperson, with regard to the backlog, the termination of the committee headed by the Deputy Minister was indeed unfortunate, because that committee was doing really good work in ensuring that on a monthly basis, backlogs in particular was given focus, and individual stakeholders had particular issues that they had to follow up, and we were able to monitor it. So it's indeed regrettable that that committee ceased to function. I can confirm that there's no other committee that was set up post that. So therefore, it is very much at a local level that the previous interventions that were put in place are being pursued. And Legal Aid South Africa local office managers have been requested to play an assertive role in the local management committees, to the extent that where we have backlog cases, especially where there are remand detainees, then we advocate quite strongly at those local committees for those matters to be given focus. I can confirm that the development committee that sits, but it looks at a lot of other issues, are currently processing a document, a framework document for the management of backlog and priority cases. So we're hoping that document will be implemented soon. It has got much of the previous focus areas included in it, such as focusing on priority cases, as identified previously, looking at how additional courts can be set up, looking at whether court hours can be extended from beyond 4.5 hours to 5.5 hours, although at the moment 4.5 hours is quite a difficult target for many courts at the moment, and seeing how local management committees can improve their efficiency and ensure that these priority cases are announced. There is even some consideration about whether a project management office needs to be set up to monitor the implementation of these priority cases and whether they're getting through, the extent to which remand matters that were remanded for trial are actually getting on the roll, what are the obstacles in getting them to be heard, as well as whether there are any issues with foreign language interpreters and how that could be resolved. The committee is also looking through the framework document on whether data collection and analysis of data can be improved. So there are interventions that are being proposed. Legal Aid South Africa, we're quite advanced in our technology issues. We have got a good grip on which are the cases that are backlogs, and we'd like to believe that our management on the ground are playing the role. What we have noticed is that the backlog numbers, as they were a year ago, has actually started to drop across all courts. They're still much higher than our targets, but there is a gradual, there is a trend showing that it is decreasing. So that's the positive side on the backlog. And maybe one other question while I'm at it, from Honorable Member Nyaut about online meetings and whether we are able to conduct that with inmates. Chairperson, I can confirm that we have not been able to do that yet. That has been one of the concerns in terms of access to inmates for consultations. Many prisons, correctional facilities have been closed as a result of the pandemic, and it has inhibited our ability to adequately meet with inmates. In some cases, in many cases, we only meet them at court. So that facility to have online use of like Microsoft Teams platform is not available. However, the other issue of remand detaining through the AVR has actually been stabilized, and postponements are being done using that system. Chairperson, I think those are the few issues that I have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, NOE COO.
Thank you, CEO. Good afternoon, Chairperson and honorable members. My name is Sitopo Mamateti, COO of Legal Aid. I will address a question relating to cybersecurity, disclosure of interest, and maybe make an additional comment on irregular expenditure. With regards to cybersecurity, Chair, we do conduct penetration test and IT governance review on an annual basis. The last penetration test was done last year, and then it highlighted gaps that needed to be addressed, and we have since addressed them. And as we speak, we are currently doing a penetration test, which started in October, and then we will await the outcome. And if there are any gaps, then we will address them. And I must mention that the penetration test is done or conducted by an independent service provider. And with regards to IT maturity, we do assess our IT maturity as insofar as IT is concerned. Last year, our assessment was at 3, level 3 out of 5 levels. And then in Q2 of this year, we did conduct the maturity assessment, and then we were found to be at level 4, which means we moved from level 3 to level 4, and the maximum is level 5. So we are confident that the measures that we are taking will address our risk relating to cybersecurity. And there was a question around disclosure of interest and why is it 99%, not 100%? Chair, the majority of this 1% is made up of people or employees who are or who were on leave at the time of cutoff. So we calculated, we have a cutoff date, and then as at that time, then we report on the percentages of people that declared. But what we do is upon their return, we make a follow-up, and then they do declare their interest. In addition to that, we have internal audit, and then they cover that. They review the register that has been declared independently and check as to whether what is declared is true and complete. And then any gaps, then it's highlighted to management, and then we take action and ask people to declare. And then there was a question on irregular expenditure. The CEO has touched on that, but what I can say, Chair, is that yes, we have had problems with our leases last year. And then in Q1 and Q2, I'm happy to report that we have not incurred any irregular expenditure relating to leases. And reason being that we now have a property management strategy. And it is that strategy we have implemented a tracking a system, automated tracking system that highlights and warns people when contracts are about to expire. And we have also beefed up our property management portfolio, and then employed somebody who is well conversant in this field. And again, with the property strategy, we are having various options, and one of which is to acquire properties where we really struggle to get landlords that are test compliant. We have since made an application to our executive authority in terms of the PFMA, because acquisition of property cannot commence before you get approval, permission from the executive authority. So we are awaiting feedback, and we are hoping that the feedback will be positive. I think I've covered almost everything that was relating to my section. Thank you.
Thank you, COO. Acting CFO, on the AG's comment on daily finance monitoring, contract management initiatives, and the rollover.
Thank you, CEO. Good afternoon to the chairperson and the honorable members of the committee. My name is Nditwane Liposa. I'm the acting CFO currently. In terms of the finding raised by the AG on contract monitoring, we have implemented previously the reporting was not uniform, which is one of the problems we had encountered during the audit. We have now implemented developed a web page and enhanced on it that all contracts are loaded on that web page. all deliverables in terms of those contracts are also loaded, and each office and each manager is expected to go in and update comments on what have you done in terms of the specific deliverable for each contract. And we've also enhanced it that you must attach a supporting document. If you've had a meeting with a service provider, give us the minutes. If you met them, you spoke through emails, you could give us the.
Deborah Lamola, can you unmute yourself? Can you mute yourself?
For contract monitoring, it's checked every week that people are doing the comments, the necessary comments for each contract, and it is signed off monthly to ensure that for each month there is contract monitoring for the webpage. There is also a webpage which has all the contracts we have in place, and it used to be sent out every 2 weeks just to remind everyone what are the expiry dates for each of these contracts. And it also indicates when there's an expired contract, but there's not a new one loaded. We have now changed it that we send it out weekly as a way to remind people that these are the contracts in place, and we would like to know, is there a new contract done or there is no new contract? If there's no new contract, you need to submit reasons why there is no replacement. It may have been combined with another service. For example, security and maintenance could have been done together for fixed assets. With regards to the question on the 39 million for rollover and the 53 million, which was savings from our operational budget, we have both requested those in our request to National Treasury for the retention of surplus. The National Treasury have given us the permission to retain the surpluses. The 39 would be used to finalize the fixed assets we procured, which were only delivered in the beginning of the current financial year. On the 53 million, part of the funds we've requested to top up the budget to procure buildings in terms of our building strategy. Thank you, Chair.
CFO,
yes, sir.
The issue relating to the under expenditure that has increased from, I think, from 119 in the last financial year to 154 in this financial year. What were the reasons?
Thank you, Chair. Part of the reasons for the under expenditure was with the decision by management then to relook at the recruitment which was done to monitor the expenditure. Part of the savings we got was from the vacant positions. The other savings was from our operational line items, which we used as part of the request for retention of surplus, which we would then support the other project which we would need to do, including the procurement of buildings.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. If I may just add that when we received the outlook for the MTEF with budget cuts over 100 million for the MTEF period, we were cautious not to proceed with our recruitment and find ourselves having to lay people off within 3 years. So where possible, we utilize contractors, and if not, we just see how best we work around the budget cuts. But it would not be prudent of us to go on an aggressive recruitment drive and having to ask people within 3 years to lay them off. So that's what primarily contributes to those savings. I will then ask, with the chairperson's permission, our land executive, Tatabiso, to just share with the committee the status of the transfer of the LRMF.
Thank you, CEO. Honorable Chair, honorable committee members, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
The CEO has already mentioned earlier that there was a breakthrough with regard to the issue of funding. It has been agreed that 33 million, Legal Aid South Africa will have access to 33 million for the last quarter, and 117 million from after April next year. We are busy finalizing the memorandum of understanding that will incorporate all of that. We hope that the memorandum of understanding will be finalized next week. With regard to the issue of the structure, we have a structure. So what will happen now will operate from the national office until we are able to build capacity within legal aid. We are busy finalizing the recruitment. Our HR department is working tirelessly to finalize that process. We hope that that process will be finalized by 30th November this year. With regard to the issue of transfer of files, we are also at an advanced stage because we are working with the department, because the files are being held at Nkosi Sabela attorneys. Our IT department is working with us. We are working tirelessly as well with regard to that, because there are systems that we need to create within Legal Aid South Africa. We are at an advanced stage. We hope that we are sure that by the 1st of January 2022, we'll be ready to take over the project. We are working together with the department currently. We are co-managing the facility. So that is assisting us a lot when it comes to, because we also see the issues that are coming out of the reviews and also are coming out of the meetings that we are attending. We are adamant that by the 1st of January next year, we'll be ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. That is our responses to the honorable members' questions.
Okay. No, just I think one issue that I think we did not explore, your litigation, your strategic litigation has increased from 10 to 13. Which areas were covered in this financial year in the strategic litigation?
Thank you, Chair. I'll ask our Chief Legal Executive, Patrick, to attend to that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, our strategic litigation, insofar as it links, it varies from year to year depending on the matters that get identified, whether by ourselves internally or externally by service providers. A committee considers the matters that come. Although we might only approve those numbers of matters, we do get substantially more, but we consider it against the criteria set in the regulation, and specifically Regulation 35, whether it meets those requirements. Insofar as the types of matters that we have been funding over the period of time, particularly in the last financial year, you'll find even now recently in the Constitutional Court, the judgment in regards to the kingship in terms of in Limpopo, and particularly around the Mr. Tony Ramabulana and Pepu. There we've been funding the applicant in reviewing the appointment, and that process all the way to the cease to the Constitutional Court. It's now Constitutional Court did deliver a judgment relating to the SCA judgment on Friday. Previously, obviously, in terms of silicosis, we're also involved in some issues where communities, insofar as it links to mining, and particularly where mining impacts on their rights, insofar as it links to being evicted from the land, or where it impacts on their water rights, or where they haven't been properly consulted. And then also in particular issues where we can set precedents. So in some instances, we've now had the criminal law particularly where the SCA wouldn't reconsider a matter. The SCA were prepared to reconsider it, particularly insofar as it links to the interpretation around the when a person may be placed on parole or not, and particularly in relation to the correctional services guidelines that were around it. So it depends, and so generally those are the matters we get involved in, and generally your bigger matters where you can impact on the lives of a larger number of people. More recently also evictions out of buildings, where it's impacting on a large number of people. We've also started funding from an impact perspective on those evictions. Also, insofar as it links to, in Cape Town, the evictions, the matter where the Human Rights Commission are involved in Mr. Kolani, where he was evicted. We've there funded his matter, where he's been assisted by the LRC. So those are the particular kinds of matters that we get involved in from a Legal Aid South Africa perspective. There are 2 booklets, and I think we will make them available, both 2020 and 2021, where we set out these matters in detail. And I think I'll ask the board secretary to then share it with the committee so that you can also have the details insofar as we document it annually in our strategic litigation document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much to Legal Aid South Africa.
Apologies, Chair. Honorable Wilma has her hand up.
Honorable Nico Trachans.
Chair, my question related to gender-based violence cases during lockdown, and what was Legal Aid SA's intervention. I did not hear that response.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nico Trachans.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Nihut. NOE?
Thank you, CEO. We would certainly get involved in all gender-based violence cases in as far as the accused who have been accused of such offences have been taken to court and have applied for legal aid. So from a criminal perspective, we will assist the accused in terms of ensuring that they have legal representation. I'm not sure if Patrick, who runs the civil section, would want to comment on that side, but with regard to the criminal side, certainly we will assist the accused in such matters. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I can come in from a civil perspective. Insofar as it links to the civil perspective is the way the regulations are currently worded. We only assist in domestic violence cases where the other party is legally represented. So at this stage, we don't normally get involved at the initial application stage unless someone approaches us where the other party is legally represented. Currently, family law matters make up about closer to about 48% of our cases. Of that, though, the majority links to divorces, and then about 4% links to maintenance and domestic violence. In both instances, as I said, we're only limited where the other party is legally represented. And therefore, in terms of the numbers, in terms of last year, it would have been between domestic violence and maintenance. We had about 1,000 matters where we provided assistance.
Thank you very much. I hope Honorable Newbot Trachans answered.
Yes, Chair, thank you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you to the South African Legal Aid Board, and thank you for the good work under very difficult conditions. This issue of budget cuts, especially as it relates to yourselves, it's a difficult one because you are dealing with the most vulnerable people in our society. Most of them, or majority of them, who face deprivation of liberty, which is a serious constitutional matter. Will continue to raise this matter in Parliament, especially when we debate the BRRR reports. that we would really ask National Treasury to ensure that you are afforded the necessary resources, because if legal aid collapses, the legal system in South Africa will be in serious trouble. So we cannot afford that as a young democracy. So we will argue that they need to ensure that you have the necessary resources to carry your work to the best of your ability as you are doing. But thank you very much for the good work under these difficult conditions. Thank you very much. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you to the members of the board. And please pass our good wishes to all members of the Legal Aid South Africa who are on daily basis working very hard to ensure that our people are legally represented.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will ask the REMSEC committee to say our last word on behalf of the Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. My name is Matumi Lisailani. We just want to express our appreciation for the opportunity to appear before the committee. We've always received the support and we value it. Thank you so much. We very much aware that our management team and the rest of the legal aid community always carries their work with dedication, commitment, and the best they could. And we're confident that even for this current financial year, we will deliver the results that you've seen over the years. Once more, thank you to you and to the honorable members for the opportunity to come before you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you to everybody. We are concerned that you are saying your IT is up to scratch, but we spent the better part of the presentation. We could not see the CEO and members of her executive. So there is no serious quality assurance on our side that your IT is up to scratch.
Case our IT capabilities in our next appearance.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we have a 5 minutes break to allow the information regulator to load their slides, and wish Legal Aid South Africa the rest of the afternoon? Can we meet at, or they've already uploaded their slides. It's now past. Can we meet at 5:25 to 3 to give them the proper break so that everybody can so that everybody can go to and visit nature and come back? Can we meet at 2:45 to 3?
Sure.
25 to 3.
Okay, Chair. Thank you.
Good afternoon to the Information Regulator, led by the Chair, Advocate Pensi Tlakula. Good afternoon, and to all members of the Information Regulator.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. I can't see myself. I hope you can. It's probably because of the slides and also that I'm using an iPad. But good afternoon, Chair, Honorable Chair, and the members.
Yes, now we can see you clearly. We want to assure you that we have read your presentation. So we will give you 50 minutes to present because we have gone through your presentation. So focus on the key strategic issues so that we can have an engagement, but we have gone through your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I am joined by the members of the regulator and the CEO and his executive team. I'm going to just talk for 5 minutes and then I'll hand over to the CEO because he's the one who's going to do the presentation. The strategic issues that I just want to highlight, Chairperson, was that, as we all know, the previous financial year was a difficult one due to COVID-19 and the lockdown that was introduced. So it made all of us to find creative ways and innovative ways of continuing with our work. That's the first thing to say. And you'll see that we could not achieve some of our key performance areas because of there is feedback. I hear somebody talking, sorry, Chairperson. But I think
Honorable Chair, can you mute yourself? Yes, you can proceed, Chairperson.
Okay, yes, Chair. The highlight, I think, for the year under review was the making of the proclamation by the President to bring into effect the remaining sections of POPIA and also to bring into effect the PAIA to transfer it from the South African Human Rights Commission to us. I think that was one of the highlights for the year. And also, I think on the positive side is also the outcome of the colloquium that we held with the IEC in 2019, which led to the amendment of the Electoral Act to ensure that the processing of personal information of voters in the voters' roll complies with POPIA. I think that's one of the highlights that we can talk about. On the negative side, Chairperson, is the number of security breaches that we continue to experience even during the period under review. They were still quite high, and key among them was the Experian data breach. The effect of that data breach is being felt as we speak because the data that was breached has been found this year, a few weeks ago, on Telegram. And the information regulator is in discussions with Experian and also with Telegram, who have written to Telegram. And I think more information will be provided in this regard. And finally, I think one of the issues that we are pursuing is the revised WhatsApp policy. You would recall that during the year under review, WhatsApp introduced a policy which in our view is not compliant with POPIA. We are continuing to engage with WhatsApp. We have actually put them on terms to revise their policy, and we are looking at legal options that are available to us, including taking WhatsApp to court, Chairperson. I will leave it here and also say that this is our last annual report that we are presenting to the committee for the first term of the information regulator. At an appropriate time, I will then bid the members farewell. Thank you, Chairperson. I'll hand over to the CEO.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. I'm not sure whether I'm audible. I'm struggling with the.
You are not audible, Dr. Musara.
I'm not audible, Chair.
No, you're not audible.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to go straight to our slide that deals with performance. The rest of the other slides, Chair, deal with governance and other issues that the members of the committee are aware of. The highlights our chairperson has just touched on. So I'll go to the slide that deals with our operational performance. Chair, for the previous financial year, the regulator planned 18 outputs, and we achieved 11. That translates into a performance of 61%, Chair. As you'd see on this slide, Chair, there are areas where there are greens and red and yellows, Chair. So I'm going to request the executives to speak to areas of their underperformance. There are not many, Chair, they won't take long. Each executive will just say, what is the area of performance, what are we doing, and where we are at the moment, Chair. So I'll do that, Chair, and I'll ask Ms. Mohali, which is program 1, to deal with one area of underperformance. Ms. Mohali.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry if I have disrespected by not greeting properly. I am still new to public sector. Thank you, CEO. I'd just like to discuss the non-performance in terms of the automated complaints management system. We had said in the last financial year that we would have purchased, and by now the system would be in operation. We did send out the specification and request for quotations. We did get a few. Unfortunately, what we were receiving were way above the regulator's budget, and we therefore could not go forward. We're talking a difference of the regulator had budgeted 1 million rand, and the quotations we were getting were around 25 million rand. So there was no way we could work around those figures. So where we are now, we have approached CETA, and they have given us a costing proposal. We are in the process of contracting with them for development as well as maintenance of a complaints management system. And we should have that within the next no time. So that's basically now waiting for the Department Adjudication Committee to approve the proposal, and then we can start with the development. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
We'll follow by Mr. Dimba, who's responsible for education and communication. There's also two areas of underperformance. Mr. Dimba.
Thank you, CEO. Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, committee. In terms of the education part of our work, we had 2 targets that missed in the previous financial year. The first one relates to the appointment of a service provider who was going to assist the regulator in development of the communications and branding strategy. That process was delayed in terms of the procurement process, but we're now in a position where we actually have contracted with a service provider and are now in a process of consulting internally on the draft strategy. So that target is back on track. we should have final approval of the strategy by the end of the third quarter this year. Where we were mostly affected by the hard lockdown in the first 3 months of the financial year is in the area of stakeholder engagement. This is when the regulator reaches out to particularly responsible parties to engage with them on issues around compliance and implementation. With the hard lockdown, as it were, this limited our opportunities to engage with stakeholders, as most people obviously shut down during that period. And so it sort of delayed us putting these stakeholder engagements in place. But over the period, we began to use virtual platforms to do this in order to catch up with the first 3 months of the year that were lost. And so we managed to catch up. As it is, currently we are sitting at about 2/3 of our target being achieved for this financial year. So that we have built momentum in this regard, and we're back on track in that. Thank you, CEO.
We'll now proceed to program 4. Mr. Lal will talk to 2 areas of underperformance. Mr. Lal.
I can't hear Ms. Sulal. I don't know whether it's me, chairperson, or whether she's on mute. I don't know. I can't hear her.
No, she has muted herself.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
We can't hear you. CEO, can you answer on her behalf? There seems to be a problem.
No, thank you very much, Chair. We have a target where we needed to craft a research strategy and plan and get it approved. And that we did not achieve this. A draft strategy was crafted, but as it went through the approval process, the regulator found that it's not what we need to do, so we could not achieve it. But we're at a point where we have drafted we have improved on the strategy. We've consulted the higher learning institutions for assistance in terms of assisting us strategy around research, and we're taking it through the approval process in the organization. This strategy was also, Chairperson, linked to a number of research products that would come out of the strategy, because they were to be based on the strategy, and the strategy was not approved. It impacted on the achievement of those research projects, Chairperson, and those are the 2 areas of non-performance. I will request Ms. Shube to deal with non-performance with regard to corporate services. Ms. Shube.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and the members of the Portfolio Committee, and Chairperson of the Regulator and the members of the Regulator, as well as colleagues. Am I audible?
Yeah, but it could be better.
Okay. With regards to corporate services, we had one target that we could not achieve. The approval of human resources management policies. The regulator was preparing to separate from the Department of Justice at the current financial year. However, the separation strategy was then revised, and then the approval of policies was then deferred to the 22-2023 financial year. The main reason why the policies could not be approved was the fact that at that time, the regulator was busy targeting the coming into effect of POPIA, and there were conflicting priorities in that regard. Hence, the policies were developed, but they could not be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Chair will then go to the financial reports. Chair, the CFO will present our expenditure for the year under review, and he will deal with about 3 slides in that regard. He'll present how much was allocated to us, how much we spend, and why we have not spent the whole budget that was allocated to us. And there are slides that deal with areas of under expenditure. So I'm going to request the CFO to take the committee through our budget and reasons for under expenditure. CFO.
Okay, thank you. And good afternoon to the Honorable Chair, Honorable members, the members and the CEO and executives of the Information Regulator. Fund was 45.497 million rand. The actual expenditure was 29.885 million, which resulted in an under expenditure of 15.6 million. The main under expenditure almost 11 million rand was on compensation of employees.
CFO, can you switch off your video? Maybe I think your bandwidth is very low.
Is this better, Chair?
Yes, better.
Thank you. So the total budget we had was 45.497 million. Actual expenditure was 29.8 million. There was under expenditure of 15.6. In that column, of which the 10.789 million is due to underspending on compensation of employees. The main reason for that is on for vacancies, as well as a few resignations in the year. We had under expenditure on goods and services, and under expenditure on machinery and equipment, and on software and intangibles. The software and intangibles were for automated complaints management system, which we could not procure. The machinery and equipment was for items of machinery and equipment that were received at the end of the year, but we could not expend or make payments because they were not fully installed. And then on goods and services, if you could move to the next page, please. And the next page. The goods and services was due to the delays in our communication and branding strategy service provider, which appointment was only done in March of 2021, as well as a lack of utilization on traveling and subsistence, stationery and printing, and training and development, as we were operating on a remote basis for most of the financial year. That's the presentation from me. Thank you.
Chair, we'll then move on to this year's presentation. We'll take questions from members at the end, but we want to just present the current financial year's performance. I think it's on slide 44, if I'm not mistaken, of this presentation. Thank you very much, Chair and members. For this current financial year, the mid-year report, Chair, is at the end of September. Out of the 27 indicators that have been planned for the year, we have achieved 14, and that translates into a performance of 51. And the division protection of personal information has 7 and has achieved 3. Paya as 2 has achieved 1. Educom, like Mr. Timba indicated, there has been a drive to push for the achievement of targets. At this stage, they're at 100. The area that's still struggling, if you look at the last financial and this year, it's legal. At the moment, 6 indicators, 1 has been achieved, and administration is at 50%. What we've introduced, Chair, to try and deal with this underperformance in different areas, the Office of the CEO has introduced Accountability Friday, where every Friday, divisions that are performing below par come to the Office of the CEO to account. We call them Accountability Friday. We put under areas of underperformance on our radar, and we track each and every performance, the details of each and every one. So we're hoping that when you come to the committee next time, Chair, the legal division would have improved on 16%, as well as the buyer division, Chair. So there are clear interventions that are in place, and we're pushing hard every Friday. We have everyone who's not performing coming to account to the office of the CEO. Chair, in terms of our next year's projection of what we plan, Chair, I'll request the CFO just to take the committee through what is that we are planning. Chair, we've decided not to go to National Treasury to ask for additional funds, because from what we've seen, our spending is not what it should be, and we want to improve on it before we can go and ask for more money. And what we have introduced is that during this Accountability Friday that I've just spoken about, Chair, we look at procurement, how procurement is doing vis-a-vis a payment. And I can report to the committee, Chair, that as at the 30th of September, we had at least achieved over 50% of our procurement for the year. But the trouble with that, Chair, it will not push expenditure until projects are finalized, until service providers have submitted invoices and we've paid them. So we're also pushing on the side of payment to say, as invoices come, we must pay them, Chair. So the procurement side in finance is improving, is doing well. We've gone past that 50% mark, but the payment side is still lagging because a number of projects are still running, particularly around the IT projects. So I am going to request the CFO to deal with slides that talk about what we need for the financial year, but we have not approached National Treasury. We think we can do a whole lot of things within the budget that has been allocated to us. CFO.
I think it's slide 77, Ms. Sondi. Thank you. Thank you. Our budget for the current financial year is 87.1 million rand. Expenditure as of the midterm, which was the end of September, was 22.6. The office was projecting an expenditure of 45.4. So this is a underspend for the year, for the half year of 22.8 million rand, of which 13 million is underspending on compensation of employees. 7.5 million, as the CEO explained, is on under expenditure on goods and services that have not been delivered in the 6 months. So we couldn't actually make payments on them. And then the same for payments of capital assets of 2.380 million. So at the moment, we are underspending, although we are almost there in terms of our procurement target. If you could move to the next slide, please. The actions then we are taking to mitigate under expenditure for the full financial year is to fill the remainder of all vacant funded posts in phase 3, which is the phase we are on now, as well as selected vacant funded posts in phase 4 in order to reduce the expected under expenditure on the cost of employees, ensure all service providers are delivering goods and services by due dates. We are paying invoices within 30 days of delivery, so we are on track with that. We have also reprioritized the budget to ICT projects in 21-22 as part of our adjusted E&Es, which were done in August of 21, and ensure all supply chain demand management is concluded by December 21 to allow for deliveries in the last quarter and for payments in the last quarter. Next slide, please. In terms of our budget allocations then for the next 2 financial years, the outer years of our current MTEF period, our budget allocation for 22-23 is 98.7 million, and for 23-24 is 106.5 million rand. The next slide, please. We will require additional budget for 22-23, even though we have not approached National Treasury yet. We feel we should just highlight what our needs are. I indicated then for compensation of employees, the filling of phase 4 positions, that will be in the next financial year, which we'll need additional funding for. The formation of a breach unit in the organization. And then for goods and services, we've identified a need for additional office accommodation because we are a growing organization. So we'll need additional operating lease for buildings as well as property payments on the building. And then ICT projects, which are a major focus area for the institution, will be a high priority in the new financial year, as well as in capital assets for ICT, such as offsite storage and for data recovery. So in total, we are estimating we will require additional budget of 22.6 million rand. Thank you.
Chair, lastly, I'll ask Mr. Nemasisi, because PAIA has done well, just to touch on the highlights around PAIA. It will be just 2 slides quickly for members to know the good work that is being done under PAIA. Mr. Nemasisi.
Thank you so much, CEO. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the committee. I'm just going to highlight, as the CEO has indicated, the issues that we're doing under the PAIA division. The Chairperson, you remember that in terms of section 14 of PAIA, we are actually required as the regulator to have our PAIA manual in at least 3 official languages. But the regulator has decided, in order to ensure that our offices and processes are accessible to everyone, so in order for us to have an inclusive accessibility of our services, we decided as the regulator to also have this PAIA manual in Braille. So as we speak, Chairperson, the PAIA manual, it's not only in official languages, we also have a Braille version, which members of the public, those who are unable to read, they will be able to read our PAIA manual in Braille, which is available in our offices. Chairperson, we did not end there only. We also updated the PAIA manual in terms of section 10 of PAIA as amended. We are required to update the PAIA manual, which was initially developed by the South African Human Rights Commission. This PAIA guide, my apology, Chairperson, the PAIA guide is supposed to be in all of 11 official languages. The regulator also decided to ensure that it's inclusive and accessible to those who are unable to read, the people living with the blind. We also have the PAIA guide in Braille as well. This will ensure that not only people who can speak those 11 official languages can have a better understanding of the PAIA, but everyone will be able to understand the PAIA in details without any hindrance. You can move to the next slide. Chairperson, also lastly, with regard to since the enactment of the Promotion of Access to Information Act, I think it's more than 20 years, there has been an exemption granted to certain private bodies from compiling a PAIA manual. But after the amendment of PAIA, which was introduced by the POPIA, which now the PAIA manual is required to actually, the requirement of the PAIA manual has been extended to include provision of POPIA. It means in the PAIA manual, we need to deal with the issue on how you process personal information. For example, how do you transfer those personal information outside? And those information should be in the PAIA manual. And due to the significance of importance of the rights to privacy, which has now been included in the PAIA manual, the regulator has now decided that there should not be no private body should be exempted. Although the exemption was extended to 31st of December 2021, from the 1st of January, each and every public and private body should have a PAIA manual. And those in order to ensure that those bodies that has been excluded in the past, for the past 20 years from compiling a PAIA manual, the regulator developed a template, Chairperson. This template is to simplify the compilation of this PAIA manual, which is inclusive of both the POPIA and the PAIA legislations. So the templates were made public, they're available on our website. So private bodies have already started to compile the PAIA manual. We are hoping that come the 1st of January next year, all public and private bodies will have an updated PAIA manual that deals with both the PAIA and the POPIA. Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks back to the CEO.
Chair, please, I forgot just one slide. I thought we were done on recruitment. This is a very important slide just to let the committee know, because when we appeared before the committee last time, the committee was worried about our pace of recruitment. And I'm going to request Ms. Shube just to deal with slide 36, which deals with recruitment, and I'll hand over to you, Chairperson, after that. Ms. Shube.
Thank you, CEO. With regards to recruitment, Chairperson and members, at the beginning of the financial year under review, the regulator had 13 positions which were filled, and those positions were part of phase 1 of the implementation of the organizational structure. In the 2020-2021 financial year, we filled 21 positions. 19 of those positions were part of phase 2, and 2 were part of phase 3. So we closed the financial year with a staff complement of 34 employees. At the end of the year, the regulator had finalized a list of 43 positions that forms part of phase 3 of the organizational structure to be implemented in the current financial year from April up until the end of the current financial year. The priorities under human resources management are that we had prioritized to implement the phase 2 of the organizational structure and finalize the list of positions for phase 3, as well as the finalization of the human resources strategies and policies. However, Chairperson, what we can report is that as at the end of October, of the 43 positions which we had prioritized to fill in the current financial year, we had filled 38 positions. And 5 positions could not be filled due to challenges in recruiting suitable candidates. However, those positions were re-advertised, and we are currently in the process of shortlisting for those 5 positions which could not be filled. But in addition to those 5 positions that we could not fill and we had already advertised, we also advertised the 3 positions where we had reservations. So in all, we advertised 8 positions from the 43 positions of phase. No, we advertised 8 positions, but 5 are part of the 43 positions, and the 3 are part of the 34, the previous phases where employees had resigned in the regulator. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, CEO, and to your team for the presentation. I will now note hands from members. Honorable Jelle, can you lower your hand if it's an old hand, unless it's a new hand?
Okay, it's an old one, but let me just.
So you have raised it as a new hand.
Yes, Chair. I think, let me just ask, because I was about to ask only one question. I think let me just say thank you very much for the presentation, and also the progress that the chairperson of the regulator has just alluded to. We really, up to this far, I think a lot of work has been done, Chairperson, and we really appreciate. We will, I think, for now, we will say, let's say we are giving you an opportunity to correct those under performance targets where you have underperformed, for you to prepare yourself for the next report, where we will, I think COVID now has, even if it's there, but it is kind of manageable. So we will expect change, Chairperson, going forward in terms of the improvement on those, some of the targets. But the issue that I don't even want to get into details, the issue of under expenditure. Those issues, we are really not happy, whatever reasons that you give, because it becomes, it starts with small things and then it grows to bigger things. I don't want to get into details, but I'm saying for now, Chairperson, let's just say we are giving them, because they have just combined the 2 acts. They're now going to work with the 2, getting to a full, what is it? Full, I was going to say full swing, because they wanted to bring the 2 acts into one roof, in order for them to be able to perform and work, do their work, so that they can see progress. So I don't want to say a lot, but lastly, Chairperson, that I want to comment on is the issue of the committee, the regulator, I mean to say, they must begin to do awareness to the community to know about the acts, and so that they may be able to utilize and to be able to report these issues to them. That's all that I can say. That's my comment, Chair, for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good afternoon to everybody. With regards to risk management, 2020-2021 You say you have a draft policy for risk management in place. Has this policy been finalized? Is it being monitored? And does this include a mitigation plan with regards to IT security? You want to implement a separation strategy from the Department of Justice, and this has been identified as an urgent intervention to ensure your independence. Yet this has been placed on the back burner now with a time frame to 2023, 2024. Why is this going to take so long, and has this strategy been costed? And what is the progress with the devolution of functions in this regard? At our previous meeting, you mentioned that full information regarding the ransomware attack on the Department of Justice has not been forthcoming, and that the information regulator really has no idea how much and what personal information of South African citizens has been compromised. How is this very unsatisfactory situation being addressed? Thank you.
Honorable Breitenbach, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Dr. Nico Drachens.
Thank you very much, Chair. And greetings to everybody from the Information Regulator, and thank you for the presentation. I would like to use the opportunity to say thank you for all the work that you've done for this past term. Most of you are the founding members of the Information Regulator, so I'd like to thank all of you for your work. I will start with slide 44. I might have missed it about why did you not achieve the two objectives in red, protection of personal information and the legal research policy and information technology. The two targets that you put in red, if you could just explain why, how come they were not achieved. And then in relation to WhatsApp, it's a big issue with WhatsApp, and then it's merging with Facebook and all of that. The independent regulator, when you contact WhatsApp, do you get a response? Have you gotten a response yet? And if you did get a response, what was the response from WhatsApp? And then thank you for the PAIA manual, making it accessible in different languages and making it accessible in Braille. Thank you for that. I would also like to request that the manual be available in South African Sign Language. There are many deaf people who would prefer to get access to information, information about the Information Regulator and all of it in South African Sign Language, but it's not available. And you could put the video on YouTube or Twitter, and whatever information you post, if you could have that in South African Sign Language, please. And then, I can't read my own handwriting, sorry, Chair. Okay, yes, I would like to know if the Information Regulator, what role did it play during COVID-19 with regards to data protection, especially, with all the COVID challenges and lockdowns. I would also like to add to my question, what role did the Information Regulator play at the start of the pandemic with all the fake news and all the fake news being distributed and people not knowing what to believe? What role did the independent regulator play in terms of the fake news, and what role can it play in future to prevent this kind of misinformation that confuses the people. In relation to a question that Honorable Breitenbach just asked, the ransomware attack, did it affect the information regulator, or were you protected against that cyber attack? And those are the questions I have for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Juan.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Apologies, Chair. Oh, apologies, Chair. I just had one more question.
Allow Honorable Hon to proceed. That is why it's important for us to write our questions down. We will come back.
Thank you, Chair. In respect of the independence issue already raised by some others, I must add my voice to say that unfortunately, if one looks at the frustrations and the delays that has earmarked the operationalization of the information regulator, the fact that we are now informed that this is something that the regulator now hopes will be resolved in the 2021-2022 financial year, can simply not be good enough. So I think, Chair, what we must as a committee strongly consider is to ultimately try and assist the process by asking all involved in making this decision to come to the committee and explain the delay and give us clear timeframes as to when this will be settled. Otherwise, we might just, given the history, as I say, around operationalization of the information regulator, come to the end of the second term of the regulator and see that this is still an outstanding issue. Secondly, Chair, and obviously related to there too, could we get some information from the regulator as to what the practical effect on its own functionality was, given the fact that, as I understand it, it is still housed on the IT and web systems of the Department of Justice. So what the practical effect of the hack was, and what levels of functionality has been restored for the information regulator. And then my last question, Chair, is around the registration of information officers, which we know had to be done before the 1st of July this year. And there was an online portal. And then I saw a press release in the days leading up to the end of June from the information regulator to indicate that the online portal was either overwhelmed or not properly functional, and that people could then revert to a paper-based system of registering information officers for entities that's supposed to have information officers. So my question is, has that process properly unfolded now? Are all information officers registered that wanted to do so? And then in relation to that, even though I understand that it might be quite difficult for the information regulator, do they have any figures available as to how many have registered, but B, according to their own analysis, how many companies, businesses, entities that is supposed to have a information officer registered with the information regulator have failed to do so? And is there any process now of engagement with companies and businesses, big and small, to ultimately ensure compliance with that requirement? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nivot Drachens.
Thank you very much, Chair. It was just one more question. It was my handwriting that I couldn't read anymore. The position of CEO was secondant. Is it still under secondment or is it a permanent position? That was my last question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, we have, as we were doing the interviews, or trying, yes, as we were trying to deal with the issue of the interviews, we have a letter from one of the members of the Information Regulator, who is a part-time member, who is raising serious issues about not being paid on time and not, and in certain instances being short paid. What is the problem? Is it with the regulator? Is it within the regulator or is it with the Department of Justice? What is the problem and how can we assist so that this matter does not continue? Because from the letter, it seems that this matter has been going on for some time.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me start with that question and thank all the members for all the questions which will be distributed by the CEO and myself among colleagues. The accounting officer is the CEO and we have tried to the best of our ability not to get involved in finances, but at a principal level, we do get involved. I think the CEO will give you the nitty-gritty, but the problem, to answer the question, I think it's with the Department of Justice. One of the problems is the rate at which the members, part-time members are paid. I think maybe the fundamental problem, Chairperson, also involves not only part-time members, but also full-time members, because the Act says the remuneration, the allowances, the privileges, and the benefits of the members shall be determined by the Minister of Justice in consultation with the Minister of Finance. So first thing, when we were appointed in 2026, we received letters of appointment that simply talked about our remuneration and said nothing about the benefits. And we have been engaging the Minister of Justice on that. But regarding part-time members, we all received the same letter that says we'll be paid a salary of so much. But what has to happen is that the minister's consent must determine the rate at which the part-time members must be paid. Even if the salary is at DDG, but they must say that the part-time members will be paid at a particular rate. That has not been done. And the member that we are talking about in particular, the rate had been changing. It has been determined by the officials of the Department of Justice, and they were changing it as and when they felt like. I've raised this matter with the minister at some point, and I have to say this, which was quite an insult to the member consent. He got a letter to say that the rate at which he is paid is that of a matric laborer. It's in black and white. And as you know, as the officials change, so does the rate change. When the other part-time member joined, the rate also changed. So the two members were not paid at the same rate. And the CEO, after this, he will take the floor. He has been at pains trying to resolve this matter with the officials at the Department of Justice. So at the high level, that's what is happening. And the intervention of the committee, I think, will assist so that we know what the rate at which the part-time members should be paid is, and also a determination of the benefits and allowances. The minister's view is that because the members are paid at DDG and the chairperson at DG level, the benefits and the allowances of DGs and DDGs apply to them. But the Act requires those benefits to be determined. I don't know how many leave days am I entitled to. I don't know what benefits, whether I'm supposed to be, my cell phone has to be reimbursed or not, at what rate. Those benefits have not been determined. So that is the problem, Chairperson.
I know that is quite serious. In fact, I think the challenge, we have to ensure that the incoming commission does not have to deal with these issues. And this has to go into our report to the House, but it would be important that the minister appears before the committee and explain this issue, because we can never have institutions treated in that way. It can't work. It can't work, but we have 5 years full term without defined benefits. It can't work, and we cannot expect it to work. We cannot expect it to work, and there is generally why should government go to court and defend the matter against, if one of the regulators takes this matter to court? Why should we go and defend such issues? Because that is a total waste of taxpayers' money. Why should we go to court for something that is generally straightforward? Who works without defined benefits? It can't work. Why should you spend 5 years just failing to deal with just a straight, simple issue? It can't work. Members, I think let's come to it once we are done with the commission. Let's come back once we are done with the regulator. Let's come back to it. It just can't work.
Let me say, Chair, after the member wrote to you, for the first time we received a response from the minister. And the response was what I told you, that the members, the full-time members, their benefits are those benefits that apply to the DG and the DDG. But I don't know what the benefits of the DG. I've never worked in that space. So the other thing that he said was that there has to be some committee that has to determine the remuneration and the benefits and standardize them across the agencies of the Department of Justice. And we also felt that that did not apply to us because we are not an agency of the Department of Justice. And the Act is very clear that in our cases, the Minister of Finance with the Minister of Justice. So that's where the matter ended. It will help. It's been a very painful thing for us because, as you correctly point out, Chairperson, it's very difficult to raise issues of your own remuneration. And as members, we have avoided to do that. I just said to the members, let's do our work. One day, somebody will deal with this matter because it's an uncomfortable issue to raise, for us. So we'll really be grateful if it can be raised with the minister and resolved.
Because the issue in the first place, I think when the Act was passed and the regulator was established, those things should have been dealt with before people assume office. That is how generally these things work. Because we cannot write in law that an institution must act independently, and then we treat it as one of the sub-directorates of a department. Because the same question is linked to what Honorable Horn, I think, raised. I think it's Honorable Horn or Honorable Breitenbach, about this issue of devolving powers, certain financial, human resource, and IT functions, which even deals with issues of cell phones. That even for that, you're still linked to the Department of Justice.
I think those issues the CEO will deal with, because we've made a little bit of progress, but at a high level, I think the issue that we would also like the committee to assist us with, and we have been putting it before the committee, is the issue of the listing. We are not making progress with that. We wrote to the minister, the new minister now. When he came in, I wrote to him to bring this matter to his attention, to also make a proposal on how we think we should be listed, because this matter has been an impasse for a long time. We said our proposal is that the PFMA should be amended, and we should be put, the regulator should be put under constitutional bodies, because constitutional bodies in the PFMA is simply defined as bodies that are listed in Schedule 1. That's all. So if they put us there, we think it can resolve, because for all intents and purposes, we operate like a constitutional body. We haven't received a response from the minister. We will follow up with him. We are mindful of the fact that he is new in his position and he has a lot of issues.
But previously, with the previous ministers, we have been interacting for the past 5 years with the National Treasury. What was the issue? Why is the separation taking so long? What was the issue?
Nobody has taken a decision, Chair. The last minister that we spoke to and we had a meeting with was the former minister, Nhlanhla, at the time when we were dealing with issues of the establishment of the organizational structure. Because what had happened at that time is that Treasury had made the listing dependent, or the establishment of the structure dependent on the listing. So until we are listed, we can't establish the organization and appoint people. So what Minister Nene did was to separate the two and to say, let's establish and then we'll deal with the listing separately. We have had Mr. Tibela, when he was still the CEO, had meetings with the officials, but I've escalated this matter to, because it needs the minister to deal with it, not officials. So we will welcome the assistance of the committee.
Then how are we expecting you to fight giants like WhatsApp if we can't deal with just basic things?
Well, that is within our control, Chair, sorry. WhatsApp will take.
But where are you going to get all the money to fight WhatsApp?
No, we have the money. The budget that we have, I mean, we're not going straight to court, but what we are committed to do is that we're not going to let WhatsApp get away with it. We even if it means if the money is too much, we'll find a way around our enforcement committee, because we can take matters to the enforcement committee. But what we are committed to do is that we are not going to let resources, or that we are a tiny country in the most southern tip of the world, to let WhatsApp do as they wish with the personal information of South Africans.
You can proceed with other responses.
Yes, I'd like to respond to a few other questions. My colleagues can come in. I want to assure the committee chairperson that one thing that keeps the members and I awake at night is the under expenditure. So we are keeping our eyes on that, and the CEO can attest, because we really fought hard to get extra resources, also with the assistance of the committee. So we can't, after we've been given extra resources in the midst of the financial crisis that the country is going through, then we're unable to spend that money. So we are keeping this very close to us, but it keeps us awake at night. That's one thing that I want to respond to. The second issue at a high level is the independence issue. I think the Mr. Horn, Honorable Horn raised this issue, the frustrations and the delays in the operationalization, and why we are now pushing this to the 2022-23 is precisely because this matter is linked to the listing. You know, for us to be fully independent and function as an independent institution, we have to be listed in the PFMA. So until we resolve that matter, will continue to operate as a regional office of the Department of Justice. I think the other issues is, before I give CEO, maybe let me just ask the members to take whatever questions they feel they want to respond to, with your permission, Chairperson. Members?
Chair, I think it will be difficult for CEO to talk about the issue of his secondment.
Oh,
Maybe
yes.
you can touch on that.
No. The CEO is no longer seconded. We appointed him on a full-time basis in July this year. The previous CEO resigned after a year, and then we appointed Mr. Msala. He's not acting.
Congratulations, CEO, on your appointment.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, are there any issues that you want to take up before we hand over to the CEO to respond to the majority of the issues that have been raised by the honorable members?
Chair, Colin Weapon, if I may, Chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair, to the Chairperson and the honorable members. Chair, just on the issue of the 15.6 million underspend, Chair, there's just a small appreciation, Chair, of the fact, Chair, that during the year under review, Chair, there were panels supposed to be established, Chair, or there were supposed to be X number of personnel, Chair, and members that were supposed to assist with the interviews, Chair, but that process of establishing the panels and also having the advertisements out after the funds were approved, Chair, had to be introduced in phases or intervals, and that really caused the under expenditure, Chair, because the longer it takes to appoint, the longer that expenditure will then be incurred. Chair, then on the issue, Chair, of the separation, Chair, I also fully agree, Chair, that it's long overdue, and there are separation plans that the regulators put in place. But as the Chair is saying, that the operationalization must happen, and as Honorable Warren stated, Chair, that the operationalization is taking time. And for us, it's really a matter of priority, Chair, but we'll definitely ensure that we put our processes and systems in place so that the separation happens seamlessly, because it also frustrates our internal processes and also cause us, Chair, to, in certain instances, over-reliance on the systems and processes of the Department of Justice. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
I wonder if I might address one or two of the questions, Chair.
Proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members, and members of the committee, members of the regulator, Chair. Just to focus in on the Honourable Nebo Druchen's question about WhatsApp, we have had a response from them. The response outlined their view on the legislation that's applicable. We disagreed with them and have got sought an opinion on that, and have now written to them in line with that opinion. And they now have some time to respond. I think the deadline is in December. So that is where that is now. But yes, they have responded to our communication. Secondly, I think Honourable Member Breitenbach asked a question about the costing of the separation, and I think we have had a costing, but I take the point that it would be important to have a current costing in terms of where the regulator is now, the staffing at this point. So I think I will certainly, I take that away with me. In terms of the breach at the Department of Justice, the regulator has appointed a CIO, and I think we will be in a better position to deal with some of the questions around, how we're dealing with information security, and whether or not we have a mitigation plan, how we're monitoring that kind of risk. So I think we are making some progress there, and we would probably be able to report more on that in the new year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just add on the Justice Bridge that we're also in the process of appointing an expert to investigate that bridge, and also to find out, because we have not been able to find out exactly from the department what personal information has been impacted. So we think that if we do our own investigation, as we did with Experian, we'll then know really the causes, and we'll know the extent and what personal information was impacted. I thought I should give it's just that the procurement processes took a little bit longer than we had anticipated of procuring the expert. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Horn, is it a legacy hand or a new hand?
Apologies, Chair, it's indeed a legacy hand.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, are there any further responses that you want to make?
Chair, I'll hand over to the CEO to respond to the majority of the question, him and his team.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. I'll deal with one or two questions, and I'll request divisional heads from program 1 to 5 to deal with relevant questions about their work in their divisions. Chair. Honorable Brittenbach raised the issue of risk management. Honorable Chair, we have appointed a risk official, and up to now, a whole lot of work has been done in that area, Chair. The first was to look at the control environment within the organization, division by division. So we've identified our weaknesses in the control environment, in the core work of the organization around POPIA, PAIA, education and legal, but also in the support areas, in finance and in finance and in HR. So that work has been done, Chair, and it's now helping us to begin to come up with strategies to close those gaps that are there in our control environment. The second thing that we did out of that exercise, Chair, was to, having noted the deficiencies in some of the areas, we then start the risk management process for each division. So each division has a risk register that identifies all the risks per division, and we've got a list of all the risks in the organization. We're now moving to a stage where we'll have a workshop for the organization where we'll list the top risks out of these risk registers. So there's been work done in that regard. The issue of the finalization of the policy is also something that we are finalizing, Chair. But we thought that the policy shouldn't stop us from identifying areas where we can do work and mitigate some of these areas. So there's been work done, Chair, and the risk registers are there for each division. The control environment, we know what are the dangers in the control environment. So there's a question on the devolution of functions. Like the chairperson of the regulator said that at the policy level, a letter was written to the Minister of Finance about the listing. But at an operational level, Chair, we engaged the DG of Justice through a memo. And I think in our last meeting to the committee, I reported that we're awaiting the DG to devolve some of the powers to the regulator. The DG indeed approved some of the powers that could be devolved to the regulator in the meantime, whilst waiting for the listing to be finalized. As at the moment, we are operating like a region of justice. It has gone a long way, Chair, to help us do some work without having to move from Johannesburg to Pretoria to get just a cell phone claim paid. We now can, do like regions. The problem, though, with that is that when you procure for anything more than R1 million, Chair, you need the DPAC of justice. So you go to them and you go to be on the list of the request for approval, because you are a region. You are limited by what you can procure. So it's impacting on our ability to procure on time. But at least the DG did approve on that. It's still not enough, Chairperson, to allow us to operate well and to implement our programs. I think on the ransom attack from Justice, Chair, we also have written a letter.
Sorry, CEO. What was devolved and what is outstanding?
Chair, in terms of HR, what was devolved was our ability to, when we appoint people, to do the appointment ourselves without going through justice. And that's why we have managed to have 90% filling of our structure. It has had that effect, because once we've done the recruitment, you do not have to go through to justice in terms of HR. In terms of excuse me, Chair, in terms of finance, I think the CFO, when he deals with this issue, will deal with those areas that were devolved. But it's about the issue of procurement. We can capture the procurement on the system, but we still do not have the authority to approve on the system ourselves. We still need an official of justice at the end, a part of the process to do that approval, when it could be done by ourselves at the regulator. But Ms. Shube and the CFO will talk to other issues. But in terms of operational issues like payment of cell phones, we are able to capture, we are able to process them in our system. We also have started with our IT systems, where we have our own email addresses, where we no longer via justice. So we have our own email address. The difficulty is still that we, for BES, for PESAL, which are connected to the justice system, when it's down, even if we've got the powers, it impacts on us. But if we were directly linked to SITA, would be able to not be affected by problems that affect the Department of Justice if their system is down. So we can have the ability to capture and do everything, but we still, because of the system linked to justice, affected by whatever happens in the Department of Justice. But the divisional heads will talk to other areas that were devolved, Chair, but we're still far away, because we're just like a regional office. There are big policy issues that still need to be taken around the use of systems like BES, procurement system, and so on, Chair. Chair, I will then request the divisional heads, through you, Chair, to respond from program 1 to program 5, in that order, to questions that were asked by honorable members that are relevant to their divisions. I'll start with Ms. Mohali, who's the divisional head for PIA.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chair. I will answer the questions that Honorable Horn has asked to the best of my ability. As the committee may or may not know, today marks the 7th week since I joined the Information Regulator. So in terms of the registration of information officers, which is what Honorable...
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, thank you. question that Honorable Horn asked, or a few questions that he asked, were around the registration of information officers. Yes, we did have an online portal, and that did not work out so well, as you know, and we resorted to manual registration of information officers. We have currently 11 interns that are processing those notifications. When the ransomware occurred with the Department of Justice, we unfortunately could not access those emails. So currently we have a figure that is quite stable despite us working on those numbers. So we can't tell exactly what the figure is, unfortunately, but we're working around 49,000 emails that were stuck in the Department of Justice's email. And then we also have had information officers that had been registered on the portal. We've had information officer notifications that came in manually, and others that came through directly from certain employees of the regulator. So somebody knowing that, let's say, Advocate Mohale is at the information regulator, send me directly a notification. Then I would send it through to the department that is processing those. So I can say that we have to date received 8,853 notifications that we have touched, and our measurable achievement we mark as a number of certificates that we've issued to the responsible party, and we've issued 8,260 certificates to information officers. Honorable Horn also asked if all the responsible parties that should have been registered and appointed and registered an information officer or a deputy information officer have done so. At this point, it is quite regrettable that we don't have a single source of where the number of all the public bodies and private bodies are situated, and not all private bodies are actually registered. So we can't tell how many have and how many should have. That also answers the next question as to what the regulator is going to do about that. At the moment, suppose that the solution is that when we do go out and monitor or we liaise with responsible parties, is to ensure that they have appointed somebody, that the person has been registered, and also at that point, we will also be conducting whether that person is a suitable person to be appointed as an information officer or a deputy information officer in terms of the responsible parties' functions and activities. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you.
Mr. Namasisi.
Thank you so much, CEO, and good afternoon again to the chairperson and honorable members. There was no specific question under the promotion of access to information division, but there is a suggestion that now that we've got the PIA guide and the PIA manual in Braille, we should also consider to have those PIA guide and manual on sign language, in terms of which a video should be placed either in our website, wherein those who may not be able to read those Brailles or the PIA manual, the other 11 official languages, should be able to access and have full information on those pieces of legislation. It's something that is very critical. We are at this stage, Chairperson, starting planning for the new financial year. So we will definitely include this in our APP for the new financial year to ensure that our services are actually accessible to every South African citizen. And that will be included in our, as we do the planning for the new financial year. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chairperson.
Mr. Bunda.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Maseko asked about,
can you switch off your video?
So for public awareness of the stake. Yes, sir.
CEO?
Am I audible now?
Yes, no, you are now.
Oh, thank you. So far, all all our public awareness and stakeholder engagement efforts have been targeted at
Mr. Timber, we can't hear
responsible
you.
parties simply because of the obligations that have come effective.
Mr. Timber? We can't hear you.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm here.
No, we can't hear you properly. Your line is very bad.
Oh, my apologies for that. Perhaps Ms. Zondi.
Yeah, somebody else can answer on your behalf.
Respond to the question from Ms. Maseko Chele.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Am I audible? It's Nomzamo Zondi. I will respond on behalf of Mr. Dimba.
Yes, no, you are.
Thank you, Chair. I think that there was a comment that Honorable Maseko had made with regard to amplifying awareness to community in order for them to understand the Act. I think we can just report, and it was also reflective in our mid-year performance report, where it indicated that the Education and Communication Division has done a lot of work around public awareness to the community at large. And we do continue to take into the fact that we have to ensure that we reach all community members by utilization of all official languages, as well as creating products in Braille, as well as taking into consideration what was suggested for us to start producing products in sign language. So what we can report is that we have done a lot of amplification of communication products and programs on our community radio stations, where we have been running advertisement, just simplifying the two pieces of legislation and what is it that the information regulator is mandated to do. And we've done this, Chairperson, using all 11 official languages and use over 80 community radio stations in the country. And I think what is also important to mention as well is that we have been having conversations with stakeholders that does a lot of civil work and advocacy, such as speaking to the advice officers, partnering with NGOs such as Black Sash, the ATI networks that speaks about access to information, because we really want to reach the heart of the community in creating public awareness. So I think for now, Chairperson, I will just leave it there, but definitely we even have very, very robust plans for amplifying awareness, public awareness to the community at large. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lal.
Thank you very much, Chair, Honorable Chair and members. I hope I'm audible now. And I do apologize for the previous problem with my laptop. I'm joining from my phone. In response to the question relating to why the research strategy and plan is still outstanding, I just wish to report that the strategy plan and a framework to guide research has been developed. And what we wanted to do was to refine the strategy and consult with external experts. And we've managed to do that in this financial year, where we have consulted with research experts at the University of Pretoria and the Human Sciences Research Council. So we now have a refined document which has been presented before our EXCO, and it's to go to a working session. And the research study, we were unable to conduct that in the previous financial year, as the research strategy itself informs the research study that we would undertake. And even though what we are doing in the current financial year is that even though the research strategy is still awaiting final approval, which is imminent, we have already started the work on our research studies itself. So that work is carrying on in conjunction with awaiting the approval of the strategy. And just to respond on the issue of what are we doing in terms of the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice has not provided a conclusive report on the nature of the breach, the extent of the breach, which is what precipitated the regulator to appoint an independent digital forensic analyst. And I think the letter of appointment is probably going to go out. It might have gone out today or it'll go out on Monday. We did experience some delays, as our chair mentioned, in the procurement process, but that is already underway. And what we hope to ascertain is that we need to ascertain independently the extent of the harm and how many records were actually compromised, and that's something that it's critical for the information regulator to do in line of the kind of information that the Department of Justice houses and the millions of personal information records that it has under its control. And I think just to add on to what our chair and member Tilly mentioned on the WhatsApp policy, what we've done is that we've had constant communication with WhatsApp over the past few months, and we've conducted a final assessment on their policy. So we actually wrote to them on the 5th of November, and we gave them 30 days within which to revise their policy to be aligned with the provisions of POPIA. And should they not do that, then we will proceed with the mechanisms that are available to us in terms of the Act. And I think that in terms of the impact of the justice breach, it has impacted, as Ms. Mohali has pointed out, it has impacted our access to emails, and that has created some challenges for us, but I think we are trying to navigate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
CEO, are you there? Maybe the CIO can come in on issues of IT if she's on the line.
Chair,
good afternoon, Chair. Can I come in?
now hand over to
come in, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Chair, members and everyone. With regards to the registration portal, there was a question with regards to that. We had appointed a service provider who is actually busy developing the registration portal. I can report that a lot of work has been done in this regard. Where we are now, we are busy with user acceptance testing. In other words, as the regulator, we are testing the system to ensure that it functions or it does what it's supposed to do. I think thereafter, the user acceptance testing, the regulator will then decide when the portal will then be made live. With regards to ICT security, at the moment, we are still under the Department of Justice's network infrastructure. So basically, we are still under their policies and whatever other controls that they've put in place. But we are working towards, with CETA, obviously, attaining our own infrastructure. And thereafter, we will definitely have security controls in place that we will be implementing as the regulator. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
CEO, are you there? Because it looks like he had connectivity problems.
Yeah, the CEO has some connectivity problems.
I think Dr. Nivo Drechens asked about slide 44. I don't know if anyone has responded, or Advocate Mohali, did you respond to that? The question was, why didn't we achieve the targets? I think it was in legal. Can somebody check slide 44, please, and respond to the question?
Thank you, Chair of the Regulator. Thank you, Chair of the Committee. Slide 44 speaks on organizational performance, and the first red cell is obviously in my area, which is the protection of personal information. We had 7 outputs, of which we achieved 3 of them. The major issue for non-performance is that we did not have capacity, and the regulator has hired quite a few people. Fortunately, the number escapes me at the moment, and applications are being processed. So the cause of the non-performance was in the processing of applications. We've made quite a difference since then. If we just look at, I will just go into some figures quickly. With our complaint system, we exceeded our target. With prior authorization, from the 1st of October, we have finalized 11 applications and 1 was withdrawn. Registration of information officers, I spoke about that earlier. Exemptions, we had 11. Sorry, I must be making noise with this paper. We had 11 applications that we received. We have finalized 1. And then special personal information, received 6 applications. We also finalized 1 there. Processing of personal information of children, we finalized 1 out of the 19 that we received. All of the ones that we have now are quite advanced in the processing stage. So when we do come to the portfolio committee again, we will have very, very good feedback to give. Thank you, Chairperson of the Regulator. Thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairperson, can I just add a little bit before I give Ms. Sulal has to answer to underperformance in her area? What we are finding out with these applications for prior authorization, for exemptions, and the ones that Advocate Mohale has spoken about is that there is really a lack of understanding and apprehension among responsible parties. They flood us with applications. Even those that do not need applications, they submit applications to just ensure that they are not on the wrong side of the law. So most of those applications, I think, will be rejected. Ms. Sulal, with the permission of the Chairperson, slide 44, non-achievement of your targets.
Thank you so much, Chair. Let me just give feedback on each of the targets for the second quarter report. In line with the approved POPIA compliance framework that had to be implemented, the compliance framework has been drafted and it's been circulated for comments. But what we have decided to do is that we are conducting personal information impact assessments with every division within the regulator. And the outcome of that will inform our final compliance framework, because the compliance framework is intended to identify all gaps in processing of personal information and to enable us to mitigate any risk that arises from the processing of personal information. In terms of the research strategy, we have achieved that target where it has been consulted upon for this quarter. I do apologize for my neighbors. The approved POPIA personal impact assessment for the regulator, in line with that, what was determined was that we would conduct divisional meetings, and we've already conducted about 4 meetings. And that the outcome of that would be that the personal information impact assessment report will be finalized by the end of the financial year, before the end of the financial year. And that forms as a component of the compliance framework. With regards to the approved rules of procedure for the Enforcement Committee, these have been drafted and they've been presented to our EXCO, and they need to be dealt with in a working committee, which is to shortly be convened. Regarding the research strategy and plan, I think I spoke to that. But what we have done in the interim, as I've advised, is that we have commenced with the research on one of the studies, and it relates to surveillance and CCTVs, given the prevalence of surveillance issues and monitoring issues that we are facing currently. The last indicator dealt with the prioritized actions in the readiness plan that were to be implemented. And what we have achieved is that we've drafted 11 of the 22 that have been set for the financial year. And these 11 documents are, some of them have been presented to Manco and Exco, others are still awaiting to be presented, and from there it goes to a working committee and then they will be implemented. That's the status report with regards to legal. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson, in the absence of the chair of the CEO, can I ask Advocate Strom Zama to respond to the question regarding what role did the information regulator play during COVID-19 with regard to data protection, and also in regarding disinformation, if she can. If not on the issue of disinformation, any of the members can also come in. Advocate Strom.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and Honorable members. Good afternoon, Chairperson, members, CEO, and the executive team. Chair, with regards to COVID-19, as you recall, we issued a guidance note on the containment of the spread of, to cap the spread of COVID-19. The challenge was that initially, we were not roped in as a regulator. The various government departments just, they were together in the beginning, but we were roped in later on in the discussions. And I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes a clear message in terms of curbing the spread never went out in terms of COVID. But Chair, I'll refer also that the guidance note also, our guidance note also assisted in that regard, because it dealt with those issues. But on the issue of misinformation, I'll let other members comment. But I think what can assist also is to be proactive and send the correct message in the beginning to curb this fake news. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Chairperson, I don't know if there are still questions that we have not responded to.
Let me check with members. Are all your questions responded to? I think everybody is satisfied. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you for the responses, and from the members of the regulator, CEO, and your team. Thank you very much for the work that you have done. I think I don't want to spend a lot of time on this issue. I would appeal that the members of the regulator be released, and I remain with the members of the portfolio committee to specifically deal with the issues of the separation strategy, the issues relating to issues of benefits, what needs to be done. Can we have that? Thank you very much, Chairperson, and to your team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's proper that since this is our last meeting where we present the annual report as for this the first term of the information regulator. I think on my own behalf, Chair, and on behalf of the members, I would like to thank you and the honorable members of the portfolio committee for the support that you have constantly given us. The task of establishing the regulator has been very difficult, but with your support and encouragement, Chairperson, also not forgetting the support of the Department of Justice, because even if there are challenges, but they have given us support, in particular, the Deputy Minister of Justice. Would like to thank you. It's been an honor and privilege, Chairperson, to be given this opportunity to establish the first information regulator for our country. And I'm speaking on my behalf and on behalf of my colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I allow members to make some comments? Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Chair. Look, in terms of the questions about benefits and leave and so on.
No, sorry, Honorable Horn.
Yeah.
I think maybe I was not clear enough. I think let's just make comments. It's more like farewell speeches to the
farewell speeches. Well,
then we can come back to the issues when we are alone outside of them.
My apologies, Chair. Yes, I think at the end of this first term of the majority of the members of the information regulator, we want to agree with Ms. Tlakula that this has been not an easy journey, and at some stages, I think as members of this committee, we've been feeling very frustrated at the very slow pace with which things are moving forward, but I think it will be very unfair to ascribe that solely to the Ms. Tlakula and her colleagues who served in their capacity at the regulator. So from our side, we wish them well in as far as they will be having. I don't know whether it will be, if members of parliament are elected, they say if you are a returning member, there's actually a one-day gap in your service. So I don't know whether that will be the same with members of the information regulator, but it is maybe preempting something with which the House must still decide on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Horn. Honorable Nivo.
Thank you very much, Chair. And to the members of the information regulator, the outgoing members, and on behalf of our study group, we'd like to say thank you for all the hard work in founding and setting up the organization. There are always teething problems in such a case, and it's like raising a baby. So thank you for all that work that you've done, and I'm sure that there are many lessons learned that will be left behind for the incoming members. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've been rather quiet this afternoon, listening carefully, but I do.
Unlike you.
Absolutely. But I do want to just congratulate and thank my dear friend, Advocate Pansy Tlakula, and all the members of the Information Regulator for the incredible work that they've done in establishing the Information Regulator under very difficult circumstances, where we've tried to assist as a portfolio committee, where we've also called them short of issues. We've also held them accountable, but we trust that the issues that are still outstanding will be speedily dealt with. But for any members that are not returning, I would just wish them everything of the very best with their future careers, and trust that we will not lose the experience that we have already maintained with the Information Regulator up to now. So I'll just wish you everything of the very best, and God bless each one of you. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Breitenbach.
Sorry, struggling to unmute. Yes, Honorable Chair, yes, to the people who are leaving and not returning, good luck with whatever you do in the future. To all the members of this current Information Regulator Corps, it's been difficult. Not everything has worked out as we had envisaged, but there has been progress for which we are grateful, and thank you for, and well done. And to those who may be returning, we look forward to working with you again, and let's try and do in the next 5 years all the things that we didn't manage to do in these last 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. On my side, let me take this opportunity to also congratulate all of you for the hard work. I think all of you, those who are returning and those who are not returning, I think we can say that your names are written in the annals of history as having established one of the most important institutions in enforcing an important right in our country. You have been men and women of integrity. We were always very happy to work with yourselves, even in areas where we felt that things were not going as quickly as we could, but we knew that your hearts and your energies have always been in the right direction. And we hope that you continue to give your service to our country. Our country needs men and women of your caliber. And we wish to see you soon. And those who are not coming back, we have really enjoyed working with you. And we know that you have given your all to this cause. And we know that wherever you are, you will continue to be soldiers of social justice. Thank you very much. Thank you to the newly appointed executives. We want to welcome you to this organization. You have one of the rare opportunities which most managers do not have. What you learn at school, be it at your MBA or whatever course you do, you are given an ideal situation. You are not told that you will find an organization with sometimes lazy people and all those theories you have learned at school, they might not be applicable. But in your case, you have a rare opportunity of starting something fresh. So you are able to implement all those theories in their purest form. So we think that since you are starting this new organization, there are areas or there are issues that are non-negotiable. The issue of gender parity, the issues of transformation, issues of ensuring that people with disability are also represented. We would want to say that in the way you recruit, we would want to see an organization that has been formed post-1994 reflected in how you operate. We don't want to continue having issues, discussing issues like we do with others, where we deal with lack of consequence management, continuous irregular expenditure, and all of those things. You don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury. We think in you, we have invested in the future we want, and we want to see it with our own eyes. Thank you very much. If I was able to sing, I was going to sing you a song by Ruby Turner, Bye Bye Baby.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Chairperson, sing for us. Sing.
Except for Miss Allison. Bye-bye,
bye-bye.
To you.
Stephen Swart, you just keep quiet. You're much better when you keep quiet.
I like that. I will remember that. Bye-bye, baby. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, Pansy.
Bye.
Members, for me, these are not good news. Clearly, what we have had is not on. There are institutions that directly report to us, and those institutions need our protection. This issue of having an institution like this one being treated the way it is treated is not on. I'm not sure what is your view. Can I have your comments? Because I think I have expressed my own views. Can I have the comments as to what other members' views are and what needs to be done? Honorable Khan.
Yes, I agree with you, Chair. I mean, this is not going to go forward if this is going to be how it is. So I would think in terms of a number of sticky issues, and as you say, it's not good to hear new issues at this meeting. I think this committee should now strongly consider making use of its powers to get all involved in front of us and see whether we can, if we get them all in the same room, even if virtually, but maybe an in-person meeting would even be better, whether issues can be clarified and settled. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Honorable Swart, we invite the Minister of Treasury and the Minister of Justice.
I believe so, Chair. And I don't know whether the Honorable Swart would agree, but yeah.
Honorable Horn, my apologies.
Chair,
Then it
I
was,
agree. Because Glenn says I mustn't speak, so I just say I agree.
I was delighted while you were so quiet. Wonderful. I really did enjoy that while you were so quiet.
I was intimidated by dogs barking. I don't know who's at work.
Just before Honorable Nevot Drachens, I think the only challenge I had is because I think we have already approved the report. Because I think this is so important, it was supposed to have gone to the report. But I think since the report has already been agreed to, and I think it has been 80-seat, let me allow other members to speak. Honorable Nevot Drachens, followed by Honorable Breitenbach and Honorable Swart.
Thank you very much, Chair. It is a great pity that this all happened in the 5 years and we only get this kind of information now when they are exiting. So it is a great pity, but we do need to call the two ministers to a meeting with us. It is not nice for highly professional people of their calibers, to be treated in such a manner. I know that, they didn't complain and, they kept quiet for the 5 years, but, it comes up as an outgoing member goes. So I do agree that the two ministers must be called to a meeting and we must get clarity on what needs to be done in future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, well, I agree with the Honorable Horn and the Honorable Nevot Drachens. I just think that we should, an in-person meeting would be the best in these circumstances, where you can look these ministers in the eye, so to speak. And I think we should, going forward, when the information regulator is reconstituted, in our interactions with them, we should build in a mechanism that traverses these issues so that this kind of information around, that we get it in time so that we can actually do something about it.
Yeah.
It's a great pity that they did not make this information available before today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masako Chele.
Apologies, Chair. I'm trying to, instead of unmuting, I go to my hand. No, Chair. Yes, I'm an apology for that. So I think I agree with the colleagues, but I don't know. I was just thinking when you were talking that maybe one of the reasons there is no reasons for ill-treating people that way, for making people to work in those conditions. But I'm just trying to think, when the ministers come here, maybe it is also, I don't know whether is there anything that has to do with the procedure or the in the acts that has to be considered? Because remember, this issue of independence, since we started with them, especially us who joined the committee in 2019, it has always been coming. Even last year, it kept on coming. Maybe if that one also can be speed up and sorted out, because that is, I think it will come with those conditions as to, you know, if they become independent, they become one of the Section 9, there will be no problem. The issues will be sorted. I don't know, but it has to be, something must be done. I agree with the colleagues. It's really bad. I think it's because the reason why people kept quiet, it was because, you know, when there's no job, people are unemployed, and they accept things that you will be shocked more than what we are hearing about today. So, but I'm in support of, let's call them, let them come, but let's push also the issue of independence more than anything. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, because I think also there are these basic things that we should not allow them to, in fact, the court to teach us things that are basic. Because when we dealt with I think Honorable Swart would remember, when we dealt with the dissolution of the Scorpion and the establishment of the Hawks, after that there was a Glenister judgment that dealt with the issue of independence. I don't think that even when you read that Glenister judgment, in the manner in which we are treating this institution, we can pass any legal muster. I generally doubt. And it will come back to what has the parliament done to protect the independence of these institutions. If some officials in the department generally treat them like the way they're treating these members of the regulator. And the question would be, what did Parliament do? And Parliament can't keep quiet. It can't keep quiet. That will be a serious abdication of responsibility.
True.
It can't keep quiet. And we can't have institutions that are created by an act of Parliament, which is a decision of Parliament, being ill-treated by by officials, and members of the executive are keeping quiet, and Parliament also keeps quiet. It can't keep quiet. It can't keep quiet. So I do think that the letter Bonani Christine has to be written urgently, but because I think we are left with 2 weeks or 3 weeks now, we will check whether is it possible this year or early next year, but it's a matter that has to be addressed urgently. I mean, who works without clearly defined benefits? And those benefits can't be assumed.
No, I think we should try and do it this year, Mr. Chair. I think it's serious enough to try and do it this year.
I think we'll try and get a letter as soon as possible to be out inviting both ministers to a meeting. And the meeting would be physical. We're not sure if it's physically, many people in the committee are in Gauteng, I assume. Or we have Honorable Breitenbach, Honorable Swart in Cape Town. So I think, and Honorable Janji. So Honorable Horn is in between. Yeah, I think it will be better to have it in Pretoria. Most of these members have not been using their tickets for a very long time. Honorable Breitenbach.
Agreed.
When I use my tickets.
No, you only use your tickets. You only use your tickets to visit your dogs.
My dogs live with me.
So let's do it like that. I think it's quite urgent.
Okay, Steve, yeah.
Honorable Swart.
No, I agree with you, Chair, and I think that we do need to have that meeting. But in addition to that, obviously it might not be possible because of various issues. We need to bear in mind we've got a new Minister of Finance as well, which is helpful. But we will need to express ourselves very strongly in our BBR report about this issue. And as well, when it comes to recommendations to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And I think you correctly report, you gave reference to the Lannister judgment and security of tenure, which is so important when it comes to independent bodies and of course that was that related to the Hawks, I think the DPCI. So information regulator is the same principle will apply. Benefits, security of tenure, and we need to express ourselves very strongly in the BBR report. Hopefully by then, by the time we accept that report, we would have had such a meeting. But I fully support your sentiments. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. No, thank you very much, members. I think if there are no further issues, can I close the
Yes.
Honorable Breitenbach supports Honorable Nivot Drachans object.
Chair, can I just wish Honorable Breitenbach a wonderful time with her cats? Shabbat Shalom.
Honorable Nivot Drachans.
I have my hand up, Chair.
Yes.
When we have that meeting, doesn't JIX have a similar concern about separation? I just wanted to double check because sometimes I feel that there's some kind of love-hate relationship between Treasury, between the departments and JIX.
Yeah, maybe what is your view, members? Maybe we should take all these issues together, or because I think there are serious differences of opinion between JIX and National Treasury. JIX and the Minister of Justice are on the same page. JIX and us are on the same page. The National Treasury believes that JIX must be part of the Human Rights Commission. Will it be appropriate to have these same issues in one meeting? Honorable Horn, Honorable Breitenbach, in that order.
Yes, Chair, I don't have an in principle objection to us dealing with it together. We must just, however, be mindful that the big difference, of course, is that to separate JIX properly, or to establish a full independence for JIX, ultimately will need a legislative amendment, because currently JIX, in terms of the Correctional Services Act, I mean, that instructs the way jigs and its budget, etc., is being dealt with. So I would think that those differences of opinion is rather a difference of opinion as to how the ultimate legislative amendment will look. In the case of the information regulator, that's not the case. I mean, the fact that it was sort of slotted in with the Department of Justice was supposed to be a very temporary measure, just to enable them whilst organograms and budgets are being sorted out to start becoming slightly functional. But now it's 5 years later and we're still there. But the act itself clearly allows for full independence. But yeah, as I say, I have no in principle objection if we set aside one meeting and try and deal with all of these issues.
But you are raising an important issue, because by the time the bill comes to us, it would have gone through the executive where both ministers serve. I think it's an important distinction to make. Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was going to make that distinction, but so in that regard, I'm covered. But if we, and I have no objection to dealing with both of the issues, I just think if we put them together, it will delay the dealing with the information regulator matter to such an extent that it will be detrimental. So maybe not.
No, I think Honorable Nivot Drachans and Honorable Jele, can I persuade you to agree to this view? Because, I mean, the other one is a pure legislative process that is still going to come to us. This one, the legislation is done and dusted. It's a situation where people are disregarding an act of parliament. Can we just deal with one issue at a time? Can I implore on you to consider that?
Yes, Chair. I think that's proper. But you know, even if when we arrive there, you can just mention it that there's this issue, but we are not here about that, and then leave it, and then talk about what we are here about.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Honorable Nivot Drachans, are you okay?
Yes, Chair. I accept that proposal.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's a matter of strategy and tactics. Yeah, I think Honorable Jele is trying to find ways of dealing with both issues in an indirect and direct manner. One is much more direct than the other one, but the message would have been would have reached home that this is the other issue that very soon needs to be dealt with. But I think let's respect legislative processes, because by the I mean, both the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Finance are going to be forced to, in one way or the other, to agree on a way forward, because by the time it goes to cabinet committees, the first DG cluster, the DG cluster cabinet committees, full cabinet, what will come to Parliament, it will be a proposal in the form of a bill from cabinet, which binds every member of the executive. So thank you very much, members. The meeting is adjourned. Enjoy what is left of the Friday afternoon.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.